They thought it was just another arrest. But when he stepped onto the bench as their judge the next day, every eye in the room froze in disbelief. The gas station lights hummed faintly that night, flickering with the tired rhythm of neon tubes. Cars rolled in and out, their headlights cutting across the cracked pavement. It wasn't a dangerous neighborhood, but it was one of those places where suspicion lived in the corners. A black man standing near a pump dressed in a sharp but casual suit suddenly became the center of unwanted attention. He had just finished a late-night meeting downtown, still wearing his tie loose around his neck. To any stranger, he looked like just another man stopping for gas. But to the officers cruising by, their headlights catching him under the fluorescent glow, he became a target. "Look at him," one officer muttered inside the patrol car, gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. "Something about this doesn't sit right." The other officer smirked. "Yeah, let's check him out. Could be one of those guys up to something. You never know." That's how it started, not with a crime. Not with suspicion rooted in evidence, but with bias wrapped in authority. The man leaned against his car as the pump clicked. He barely noticed the cruiser circling the lot, but when the red and blue lights snapped on, his chest tightened. A lifetime of lessons flashed in his mind. His grandmother's voice: "Stay calm. Speak carefully. Do not give them a reason." The officers stepped out, boots hitting the ground heavy, hands already resting near their belts. Evening One barked, eyes scanning him up and down. "What are you doing here?" The man tilted his head slightly, confused but composed. "Getting gas." "Just like everyone else," the officer scoffed. "Dante, get smart. License and ID." The request wasn't unusual, but the tone wasn't about safety, it was about control. The man knew it. And here's where the lesson begins. For anyone watching, when you're confronted by authority misusing power, your greatest tool is calmness paired with clarity. They feed on escalation. They look for it. But what disarms them is refusing to give them the storm they want. He reached slowly for his wallet. "Here's my ID," he said evenly. "And just so you know, I've done nothing wrong." The officers exchanged glances. Something about his calm unnerved them. Some people, when treated unfairly, panic or lash out. He did neither. That alone made him harder to control. But bias has a way of doubling down when challenged. "Step away from the car," the second officer ordered. "For what reason?" he asked, his voice still steady. "Don't question me," came the sharp reply. The man sighed internally. He could already see the path unfolding. Suspicion with no evidence, force with no justification. And he knew something they didn't tomorrow. The roles would reverse. They didn't know who they were cuffing. The cuffs clicked cold around his wrists. The metal bit into his skin as one officer pushed his shoulder harder than necessary. Bystanders at the station froze, some whispering, others recording. The man didn't resist. He let the scene play out, every second burning into memory. Why didn't he fight back? Why didn't he shout louder? Because sometimes the most powerful statement isn't what you say in the moment, it's what comes after. As they shoved him into the back of the cruiser, one officer chuckled. Another one off the streets. But in his heart, the man wasn't angry. He was calculating. Every insult, every shove, every assumption they had just written themselves into a story they couldn't escape. Flash forward. Morning. Sunlight spilled into the courthouse, illuminating polished wood and quiet halls filled with anticipation. The same officers sat stiffly, uniforms crisp, but their eyes darted nervously. They thought it would be a routine hearing, maybe some paperwork, maybe a reprimand. They had no idea. The clerk's voice rang out, "All rise," and then he entered. The man they arrested, the one they mocked, the one they thought powerless, walked into the room, not in cuffs, but in robes. The gavel gleamed in his hand. The robe carried authority heavier than their badges. The silence was suffocating. Every eye turned wide, jaws slack, as the realization hit. This wasn't just a man. This was their judge. The very person they treated as less than human was the one now holding their future in his hands. And here's the truth. life has a way of circling back. Power abused in one moment can collapse in the next. The officers thought they had control at the gas station, but in reality, they had just handed him the most powerful position in the room now. Let's pause. For you watching this, there's a lesson buried here. It's not just about karma or poetic justice. It's about how you carry yourself when facing unfairness. The man could have screamed. He could have resisted. He could have cursed them out at the pump. But instead, he chose restraint. Knowing that dignity lasts longer than rage, ask yourself, when confronted by those who misuse power at work, in public, even in your own neighborhood, how do you respond? Do you fight fire with fire, or do you carry yourself with a calm that disarms their authority? This doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean weakness. It means strategy. Because dignity isn't about letting them win, it's about choosing when and how the victory shows itself. Back in the courtroom, the man adjusted his glasses, eyes steady on the two officers. His voice carried no anger, only weight. "Gentlemen," he said, tone sharp but composed, I trust you remember me." One officer swallowed hard, color draining from his face. The other shifted uncomfortably. Suddenly stripped of confidence. "This court," the judge continued, "is not a place for bias, nor for abuse of authority. And today, you will answer for your actions." The gavel cracked against the desk. The echo carried through every corner of the room like thunder, and in that moment, the entire story flipped upside down. The ones who thought they could control him sat powerless. The man they underestimated was now the one who defined justice. But let's not forget the story. It isn't just about humiliation for those officers. It's about a reminder for everyone watching this video. You may not wear a robe. You may not hold a gavel. But every single one of us will face people who underestimate us, disrespect us, or try to control us. And the real question is, when that moment comes, will you let anger decide your reaction, or will you carry yourself with dignity, knowing that life has a way of bringing balance? The judge didn't need revenge. He didn't need to shout. His very presence, the robe, the bench, the silence that followed was enough to prove that truth always surfaces. And so the lesson here is simple. Your calm is power. Your patience is strategy. And sometimes, the greatest justice isn't served in the moment. It's served when the world finally sees you for who you truly are. That's the beginning. But stay with me. It isn't just about what happened in that courtroom. It's about what happened after. How the community reacted, how those officers faced consequences, the deeper lessons about living in a world where power and prejudice collide. Don't click away. Watch until the end. Because the real twist, the one nobody saw coming, hasn't even happened yet. The gavel's crack still lingered in the air, like thunder trapped in the walls. Silence pressed heavy over the courtroom. The two officers sat rigid in their chairs, uniforms suddenly feeling like costumes instead of shields. Their badges no longer carried authority. In that room, authority belonged to the very man they thought powerless the night before. The judge, calm, poised, deliberate, leaned forward slightly. His eyes did not burn with vengeance. Instead, they carried a steady fire, the kind of flame that doesn't rage, but consumes quietly, leaving nothing untouched. "Do you understand?" he said slowly, voice echoing through the chamber, "the weight of your actions." The officers exchanged glances, but words stuck in their throats. "This court," the judge continued, "is not a place for excuses. It is a place for accountability. And today, gentlemen, accountability finds you." The spectators, journalists, community members, bystanders sat transfixed. Some had been at the gas station recording on their phones. They had seen injustice unfold in real time. Now, they witnessed justice rebalance the scales. Let's pause for a moment, because here's where you, watching this video, can find something deeper. Too often we live with the belief that power is permanent, that people who mistreat others will always get away with it, that those who wear uniforms, titles, or positions can do as they please. But stories like this remind us of a truth too many forget. Power shifts. it is never permanent. So, when you find yourself mistreated, whether by an authority figure, boss, a neighbor, or even a so-called friend, remember, you don't need to force revenge in the moment. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is let time and truth reveal itself. The man at the center of this story understood that. He knew that shouting at the gas station wouldn't change their bias. But patience? Restraint? That allowed the full weight of justice to unfold in its time. Back in the courtroom, the trial proceeded. Witnesses took the stand, people who had seen the arrest at the gas station. Videos surfaced, shaky footage from cell phones capturing the unnecessary aggression. The condescending tone, the smug laughter of the officers as they tightened the cuffs. The evidence was undeniable. One officer shifted uncomfortably as the video replayed. His smirk from the night before now mocked him on the screen. The other lowered his head, unable to meet the judge's eyes. And the judge? He didn't gloat. He didn't grin. He didn't let triumph seep into his voice. Instead, he maintained the same calm he had carried at the pump. The same calm that unnerved them from the start, because dignity, once chosen, does not waver. Let's reflect. This story isn't just about two cops and one man. It's about every single moment when someone in your life tries to reduce you. Maybe it's an employer who overlooks your worth. Maybe it's a classmate who mocks you. Maybe it's someone in your own family who doesn't believe in you. Here's the truth. When others underestimate you, it says more about them than it ever will about you. Their vision is clouded. Their judgment is limited. And while they spend their energy tearing you down, you can use yours to rise quietly, steadily, until the day comes when their words and actions collapse. Under the weight of your success, just like this man did, the courtroom's air thickened as the judge called for order. He tapped the gavel again, not with rage, but with control. These proceedings, he said, are not about vengeance. They are about justice. And justice demands truth. One officer, his voice trembling, finally spoke. Your Honor, we didn't know who you were. The judge raised an eyebrow. And if I had not been who I am? If I were just any man at a gas station that night, would your actions have been justified? The words cut deep, because that was the heart of it, wasn't it? They didn't act out of law. They acted out of bias. And in admitting they didn't know who he was, they revealed the ugly truth. They treated people differently depending on what they thought they saw. The spectators murmured, the weight of the question filling every corner. The judge let the silence linger, driving the lesson home. Here's the value for you. Right here. When facing people like this, those who judge you, those who underestimate you, the question is not, how can I prove myself to them right now? Instead, it's, do I trust myself enough to let time, truth, and my actions reveal who I am? Proving yourself in the moment often means lowering yourself to their level. But allowing the truth to surface with time, that's dignity, that's power, that's strategy. As the hearing went on, the defense tried to spin the story. The officers acted on instinct, their lawyer argued. They believed they saw suspicious behavior, but the judge didn't flinch. Suspicion is not a crime, he said firmly, and bias is not a justification. Every word rang with authority. This wasn't just about punishing two men. It was about sending a message to everyone watching. Justice does not bend for bias. Now picture this. The man who had once sat in the back of their cruiser now sat above them. Elevated not just by the bench, but by the weight of truth. The same hands that had been bound in steel cuffs now rested freely on a gavel that commanded the room. That reversal wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was the result of who he was long before that night. Educated, disciplined, patient, dignified. The officers didn't create his power. They revealed it, and that's another lesson for you. When people try to diminish you, they don't erase your worth. They only reveal it more clearly when the tables turn. As the session neared its close, the judge spoke one final time. His words weren't angry. They carried a weight heavier than any punishment. You thought it was just another arrest, he said, repeating their mistake back to them. but justice has a way of arriving where it is most needed. Let this be a reminder. Your power ends where another person's dignity begins. The gavel fell, and in that instant, history felt rewritten. Now, let's zoom out. This isn't just one story in one courtroom. It's a mirror reflecting countless moments we face in our lives. You may never wear a robe. You may never hold a gavel. But in your own story, there will come a time when those who disrespected you, doubted you, or mistreated you will have no choice but to face who you truly are. And when that moment comes, remember this man's example: calm over chaos, dignity over rage, patience over impulse. Because true justice isn't about proving them wrong in the heat of the moment. It's about living in such a way that eventually the truth proves itself undeniable. So what should you take from this story? Stay calm under pressure. When confronted unfairly, don't let rage dictate your response. Calmness unsettles those who expect chaos. Hold your dignity. Never let someone's ignorance strip you of your self-respect. Dignity is your shield. Trust, time, and truth. Power abused today often collapses tomorrow. Trust that what's hidden will be revealed. Rise quietly. Success is the loudest rebuttal. Don't waste your breath proving yourself to those who can't see your worth. As the video closes, I want you to hold on to this image. A man once humiliated under flickering gas station lights now stands in a courtroom bathed in sunlight, his gavel striking not just wood, but history. That is what patience, dignity, and truth can do. And if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or mistreated, remember this story, because your moment will come too. So watch carefully how you carry yourself today, because tomorrow, you may be the one holding the gavel. Stay until the end of this channel's journey, because stories like this are not just entertainment, they are reminders of who we can become when we choose calm over chaos, strategy over rage, and dignity over hate. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone who doubts their worth, someone who feels crushed under unfairness. Remind them, the story isn't over, because just like in this courtroom, tomorrow could flip the script.